I'm here with Garry Mallett, candidate for the election and currently sitting councillor. And I thought I'd just ask you sort of two questions as one. Why should people vote for you? And what is it that you consider to be your main task as a councillor?
Okay, thank you, and thank you, Lance, for the invitation. I appreciate it. I think the main, and this is going to sound a little bit virtue signalling, but I think one of the main reasons that you'd want to vote for a councillor like me is that I genuinely stand for the ratepayer stroke the residents.
Okay.
And let me explain what I mean there. Okay, every councillor every candidate who stands genuinely thinks they are standing for the ratepayers and the residents. And they genuinely think that.
Well, that's what we hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course you do. Of course you do. Yeah, and this is why this is important. And those that get elected are standing to represent the ratepayers and the residents and the citizens of the city, whatever you want to call them. However, within about 6 months, it's very, very difficult not to become captured by the organisation. Let me explain what I mean by that. And this is just human nature.
Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, a bit like that, yeah. So you get elected and you're fighting against all these councillors, candidates, and you get on the council. You're excited as hell, and then suddenly the senior leadership team, the general managers, speak to you and they educate you and they tell you what's going on. Because most people, I don't know how to run a water treatment plant or how to lay a road or things like that. So we rely on the staff to provide us with information, give us advice, protect us from breaking the law, all sorts of things. Yeah. So over time, and it's very subtle, but it occurs, councillors who genuinely believe they were representing the ratepayers become part of what I call team council.
Okay.
And it happens over about 6 months, and I see it happen. And what happens is instead of being on team ratepayer, let's call it team ratepayer, we now move over to team council. And when you're on team council, because you're getting fed information from the staff and they're supporting you and helping you out with things, you start losing your allegiance with the ratepayer and spending a hell. And these are nice people. You have a drink with them every now and then. You have a coffee. You're frequently having coffees and teas and that sort of stuff. And suddenly you realise, without knowing it, you are not representing the ratepayer anymore, and what you're doing is you're actually defending council's decisions, policies, stances from the ratepayer strokes the resident. And it happens to just about everyone. And here I'm going to pat myself on the back. You've got to have incredibly thick skin not to go that way. Because of course they're the people we're working with all the time. And they're the people you want to be friends with your colleagues at work. And frequently, I am questioning staff in a tough way, and sometimes other councils get offended. They get hurt for the staff. And to be honest, I've been in politics for a while. You have to have a thick skin, and you have to be prepared to embarrass your advisors or your colleagues when you think something's wrong. And so that is a bit of paper just falling on. So that is if you want the one crystal clear difference between me and my colleagues and most of the candidates. Now, most of the candidates, if they watch this, they won't happen. And they will be genuine. They can't consider, but it happens. It's really hard not to let it happen.
Yeah.
And I guess I've done quite a bit of thinking about politics. I think, as you must have been growing up too. And I have got my positions, and I've got the values, and I mean real values. That I've spent a lifetime learning them and understanding them and challenging them. It's going to take a bloody earthquake to move me off them. But having said that, I am open to rational debate. I will change my position if someone can confirm that my current position is wrong.
So you're prepared to to look at things and make a new assessment. Like I'd always been taught, have a code of ethics and morals, and every few years sit down and make sure that that's still current and good for the job it's supposed to be doing. And that's sort of what you're talking about there. Is you have your strong views and things like this, but you're open to discussion, and if new information comes in that makes you go, oh, okay, maybe that stance needs to be adjusted a little bit.
The answer is yes, situation. And in fact, that for me is an exciting thing. I'm learning something new. Now, Mike, having said that, these are pretty solid, these views and principles I've got in my mind. It takes a bit of shaking to make me change. Yeah. But if I get, and I'm completely willing to change my mind if the fact, what did they say? Some great leader in politics said, "Why did you change your mind?" Well, the facts changed. Yeah. Now, if the facts change, you've got to go with the facts, go with objective reality.
I think that's a good thing for voters to keep in mind. There's a couple of things you brought up there that I think are good, and that's the fact that you are staying on the ratepayers' side of the battlefield, if you want to call it that, and also that while you've got definite views and they are solid, like they should be for anyone who's got developed a set of views and a viewpoint, should be solid. You are prepared if the facts change. It's like technology is moving all the time, so that does cause a change in how we do certain things. You look at live streaming of councils.
Yeah. Here's a great example. 6-8 months ago, the question of Roundup, glyphosate. Anyway, Roundup, the herbicide. Came up, and there is one of the councillors, Ziggy Henry, and I'm not talking behind your back, and I'm saying up front, is very anti that stuff.
Yeah, I think everyone knows that.
Yeah, cool. And so she asked the staff to look at alternatives to using Roundup. Now, Roundup is a very efficient, economically, and it does the job, all that sort of stuff. There is some suggestion that there might be some sort of carcinogenic, i.e. cancer thing in it. Very, very little evidence for it. But anyway, that's out there, and that's where Ziggy's coming from. But she wanted the staff to go out and do a trial, and I don't want to mock her, but it was that you put boiling water over the weeds rather than, rather than Roundup. They tried it in Christchurch, and it costs. Look, and I can't remember the figures, but an enormous amount. It wasn't just $10,000; it was hundreds of thousands of dollars, and didn't do the job anywhere near as well. No. So I accused her of brutal science. I said, but everyone took it as a joke. No one found that too offensive. Actually, the mayor did. He said you should apologise. I said no, I didn't say she was voodoo. I said the science was voodoo. Anyway, so but I did say, and at some time in the debate, she said, Garry Mallett, when will you change your mind? I said, I will change my mind when factual evidence proves that there is a better herbicide, more economic, more efficient, and does the job than Roundup. Or if Roundup does get conclusively proved to be a carcinogenic.
That's incredibly unsafe.
Now, all chemicals are somewhat unsafe.
That's why you wear protection.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you follow the instructions on the case.
Basic thing is, don't let it touch your skin. Don't ingest it, and don't breathe it in. And so long as you cover those bases, you should be safe from most things.
But it could turn out that there is some relevance to her concern, and in that situation, I would very comfortably change my stance. And not feel like a clown because the facts had changed.
And so you're brave enough to go, okay, things have changed now, so I will move on and have a different viewpoint on this.
But not before that. Not before that. Not just because. And I won't say that Ziggy is virtue signaling, but not just because I'm waving a flag and trying to show off and look how smart I am. I would want to see, and I'm not a scientist, so it needs.
So would that come into also? There's been this whole issue with climate change, and we should declare a climate emergency in Hamilton. I've always had the view that an emergency requires immediate action. If someone sees a house on fire and declares it an emergency, you don't let people back into that burning house. So therefore, if you declared a climate emergency in Hamilton, you would ban all cars from the city and a bunch of other things because of what they're doing. Yes, it is a climate urgency. We need to look at how we do things and can we do things better. But in your view, do you think it's an emergency or just something we need to pay close attention
and
to?
this is another situation where I'm waiting for the facts to change. Okay?
Yeah.
Let me start off with, the concept. There's an old saying that the cure is worse than the disease.
Yeah.
I think this is a classic. Let me go right back to the basics. Of course, the climate is changing. The climate has always changed. It is changing, and it will continue to change. Nothing we can do about that, other than at the very close, at the edges.
Yeah.
So, climate change denier is an absurd term to call anyone, unless a person genuinely believes that the climate doesn't change. Then you are nuts.
Yeah.
You just can't feel a difference between hot and cold.
Yeah.
So clearly, the climate is changing. Now, there's a whole lot of boxes that need to be ticked. What can we do about it? Does it matter?
Yeah.
And does it matter from a range of there and there? Okay.
Yeah.
If it all that matters is people are getting a little bit more sunburn, we'll put on some,
Yeah.
But because the cost might be like one of the costs might be our entire freaking dairy industry.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to an extreme. I'm saying this is where things look like they're going. One thing might be, you might find, and you'll smile when I say this, we might end up with a one-child program. There are people saying we have just got to stop producing so many kids, because every kid is a huge carbon-creating machine. So we might end up, can you, now, you
go back to old China.
Yeah, you're smiling now. But that's not that. 30 years ago, no one would have conceived that we'd be trying to get rid of cars. Cars have been one of the most liberating technologies for mankind in the world. It's one of the things that levels our society out. We might not have a flash car, but I've got a car so I can get my kids to school. I can get to meetings. I can go to work. 30 miles away rather than having to walk to work. So it's a great level up in terms of making our society less stinking rich and poor. Because you can all have a car. You won't have a Mercedes. You might have a Toyota or something. But so it's a great technology.
So do you think when it comes to this subject in particular,
climate change?
People need to, yes, climate changes, and yes, humans impact that change.
We don't know by how much.
But we don't know by how much. But we do know that more important than climate change, as from a human perspective, is pollution. So our use of certain things, namely...
Can I just go back one... How are you? couple of steps on the climate change. And then, okay, so there's climate change and there's a whole lot of boxes that have to get ticked. First of all, is it caused by humans?
Yeah.
Because it's very, very clear that a volcano eruption in the world wipes out all of New Zealand's efforts to reduce CO2 for 100 years. Look, and I'm not a scientist, these aren't, don't quote me on the figures, but that's the type of scale,
Yeah.
And we have no control over that volcano whatsoever.
Well, you get places like White Island and places like that, which are not habitable.
No, that's right. But it's belching out all the stuff, okay? Now, we have no control over, and yet we might be here shutting down industries. You might find that all of the freight industry just gets wiped out. We're just not going to face them. I don't know how to transport them, but the Greens can tell you that. They'll have some idea. Suddenly you've got people losing their jobs, their economy's tanking, people are starving. A first world country like us goes into depression, people are starving, and we've achieved nothing in terms of reducing, or we've reduced the global warming by that much. It's just, so you've got to make sure, this is me getting back to the cure, has got to be not as dangerous as the disease itself.
Yeah, especially when we've got technology progressing to a point where we can do things differently that will have a lesser impact, but more important on climate change. But more importantly, will reduce the amount of pollution we create as human beings, because that is quite astronomical. For instance, in my view, more important than the discussion of climate change itself is how clean is the Waikato River. Is it cleaner when it leaves Hamilton than when it arrived in Hamilton? So the water that comes in through Hamilton, are we making it as clean or cleaner, or are we making it dirtier when it leaves?
The water we pull out of the river the water we put back into the river is a zillion% cleaner than the water we pull out.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's come from Taupo all the way up, and it's gone through a couple of cities and a lot of, no cities, sorry, but a whole lot of townships and some farms and some stuff. So, and you would never drink that water. Okay?
No.
We then pull it out, clean it at our water treatment plant, and you've got pristine water that ticks all the boxes. And I'm glad we're talking about this, because this is the stuff we need to be focused on in council. Okay? So, and we tick all the boxes. We then goes to our place. We wash our clothes in it. We shower in it. We flush our toilets with it. We water our gardens with it. We wash our, all that sort of stuff. Okay. It then goes into the sewer system and goes to Puketi, gets cleaned, and it is the water that goes back in from Puketi is way cleaner than the water we pulled out of the river.
That's good to know, because for me that is an important thing that we are doing the best we can to keep the environment clean. The other thing, since your area is definitely finance, is Hamilton in a position to keep that standard going as we expand? Because we're now at a situation where we're right on the tipping point of our population hitting the point where electoral boundaries get redrawn and things like this in the next little while. So that means that our population is growing. And when I looked at the figures that the council put out in their little booklet thing, I didn't realise how small Hamilton City was, as in population-wise. When I was a kid coming here on odd days when we come through Hamilton, I didn't realise how much it's grown since then.
In terms of numbers of people?
Numbers of people and physical size as well.
Our boundary hasn't grown much, which is one of the...
But just that we've got right out, we've built out to the boundary.
We have that, hence we're spending mega millions on peacocks.
Yeah.
Peacock, it's not...
I remember when there was a big gap between the official Hamilton boundary and the edge of Flagstaff, for instance. There was actual countryside. Right?
There were horses and cows in there.
Is our current system for dealing with wastewater, etc., and other services, is it capable of dealing with that expansion? Because we are going to expand, we're going to have infill housing, all this sort of thing.
The current water treatment plant, sewage wastewater treatment plant, and pipes in the ground are satisfactory now.
But if we suddenly jump forward 10 years, we're a bit screwed.
Absolutely. Projecting out into the future, those things are both, they're all in our 10-year plan. Both in our 10-year plan got massive refurbishments and expansions going. Another issue that we've got is that Hamilton, because we are a dense city, is working very, very hard on building more residences where on a smaller footprint. Okay, so you were seeing
what they call infilling.
Yeah, absolutely. And the day of the duplex apartments, those sorts of things happening. So very rarely do you have. Well, it's been a long time since it's been a quarter acre section, but there's a lot of houses being built with no backyards. Now, I'm not making a judgment on that. I just wanted to say to you that the same number, that amount of pipes. Previously, there was in a couple of acres, there might have been 6 houses.
Yeah.
Putting it crudely, there might have been 12 toilets.
Yeah.
Okay, each house with 2 toilets. You're now getting, in that same space, you're now getting 20 residences, each with 2 toilets. So you've now got 40 toilets. Yeah. And 40 bottoms.
Yeah.
And so the same pipes are trying, on the same piece of land, there's more toilets, I'm just putting it very simply, going into the same pipe. So for a while that was cool. That was almost free growth. We were able to house more people, which is fantastic. Families and businesses, housing them. And we didn't have to, the pipe was that big and only that much was being used.
Yeah.
Over time. Oh. Yeah. Now
So
we either have to replace those pipes with bigger pipes, or we have to find another solution for moving that sewage.
Yeah.
And there is
so effectively, to put it bluntly, as we infill with housing, we've got more crap to deal with.
Yeah.
Of all sorts.
Yes, correct. And it's a good thing to do. I mean,
Telecom went through that back in about 12, 13 years ago. No, it would have been 20 years ago, flat I think, when there was a bit of a start of an influx of sections being subdivided and stuff smaller and smaller, and their physical copper wire system was not designed for that. It was designed for what we did at the time, and there was a lot of splitting of lines, and people had all sorts of phone issues and things like that. They've since remedied that so that now you can have more phone lines per property, and now they're moving away from that. Things like fibre optic and stuff. Well, it's like putting in bigger pipes. Fibre optics and mobile allow more telecommunication on the same size property than in the past. And now we're dealing with that with waste water supply.
And it's a challenge. It's going to cost, but it's an opportunity to try out new things. It's funny, some of the new things we might try have been done a long time before. Like, you remember the concept of not the concept, you know what a septic tank is.
Yeah.
Well, these...
Lifted tank of wedding.
Yeah. I won't say any more. Okay. So now, at the moment, most people expect that they flush the toilet and it goes into a pipe and goes to the treatment plant.
Yeah.
It's a consideration to say that we might need to go back to septic tanks. So we might find that these apartment blocks, and we might just be, this is not what's happening, but these are the sort of things.
We have to look at it.
Yeah. Okay, maybe we might just have to contain that sewage for a week. Yeah. So we have to put a great big underground container, tank or vessel in underground, which holds the sewage for a week, and a truck comes and takes it away. Now that might be cheaper than ripping up all the pipes and rebuilding them at twice. And also you're ripping up pipes where there are roads and you'll be under people's houses. Yeah. I mean, that could be a nightmare to do that. So, or you might put in new pipes. But there's a whole lot of things.
Do you think the same thing applies to water supply? We always have these things about water restrictions, but we're one of in Hamilton, unlike places like Australia and a few other places, you don't see water collection from roofs. So
I got you.
We don't have tanks are considered something that country people deal with. Mm. We could have
You mean a drinking water tank as opposed to a septic tank?
Yeah. We could have a system where water is collected and piped to the treatment station to be dealt with. So instead of relying on the rain and Taupo, because effectively what people don't often realise when we have water restrictions is that as a city, we don't rely on the rainfall here as much as we rely on the rainfall in Taupo. And that area defines the amount of water we have available. Now, if we had some catchment in Hamilton itself, it's possible. I don't know the science of it, how feasible it is. But
theoretically, catchment is as simple as a tank. Yeah. Is that what you're meaning?
Yeah, like the roofs on the roofs in the city that can catch the rain
and then takes it into a tank.
And it doesn't need to necessarily mean massive tanks on apartment buildings or anything like that. It could potentially be directed to the treatment station, so you're not having to deal with tank water yourself. It's still treated. It's just how it's collected is different.
And this is happening, like there's three waters. There's sewage, wastewater, drinking water, and stormwater. Now, stormwater is one that's interesting there because we are now starting in some of these high-density areas, we're requiring people to have storage of stormwater.
Okay.
So, and it's exactly the same as sewage, septic tanks, except it's a little bit cleaner, the water.
Yeah.
And what we're doing is asking people to be able to hold 3 or 4 days worth of rain, and then unleash it kind of when the rain has stopped, and our stormwater system is able to. Because if it all comes, if you're dealing with a flash flood, it all hits the stormwater system at once, you get all sorts of problems. Sewage starts leaking and all sorts of the pipes burst. They just can't contain it. So often, if you can contain 2 nights worth or 3 nights worth, that gives it time for the rain to stop. The pipes to get cleaned
for
up.
instance, today it could be steeping out now while there's no rain coming.
Absolutely. And it's an interesting thing because it actually brings the community back. You start to understand how, because the problem we live in such a beautiful, great time to be alive as a human being, that we've got so much technology that most people have no idea how electric gets into the light bulb. I don't. Or how you just turn on the tap and damn well expect water to come out.
Yeah, and you get really pissy when it doesn't come out.
Yeah, and it's like kids thinking that meat comes from the supermarket. You know what I mean. So what's happening now is this is a way, and I'm not. This stuff all has to be tested. It all has to be proven, and it has to be economic. It has to be economic.
Yeah.
But I think there will come a time where we're faced with, do we spend billions of dollars ripping up existing pipes, or do we spend millions of dollars putting storage into houses and things like that?
Yeah.
And these are the challenges councils...
That again comes back to the finance part of it, and that's the fact that people get a bit of a cry about the rates rise. Now, yes, the rates rise affects everyone from a homeowner to a renter. We're all affected by rates rise. Right?
A rates rise just goes right through, at the end of the day, goes through to the end consumer. So it's either a householder, a renter, someone buying products from a store that pays rates, it passes those things.
Because my coffee goes up.
Yeah. Quite small amounts, but it goes up.
So, from that point of view, obviously, one of the things you're going to be doing is keeping an eye on making sure that the rates that are collected are spent sensibly in the most effective way.
You have just hit the nail on the head, sir.
So I've got 2 questions that are tied together. Do you think the rates rise was justified? And are there areas that you think we could be making better use of those rates to justify the rates rise?
Yes. No, the rates rise was not justified. It was needed. It was needed because we had not addressed our overspending through the previous term. This was the last term of Julie Hardacre.
Yeah. Because we haven't had a rates rise, proper rates rise for ages, have we?
No. Well, Julie in maybe 2015, might have been the year, a couple of years before I got back on council, they had done a 8% rate increase.
Okay.
I think, hi Lisa, I think it was Julie's first term, her first year. Julie Hardacre, should be her council put through an 8% rate increase, then did 3.8. Andrew got in. Andrew's council got in and did a 9.7 rate increase, then 3.8. Now let me just put that into context.
The fun of interviewing a sitting councillor, everyone recognises them.
They put that those 3.8s into context. That's 5 times the rate of inflation. So the average man or woman in the street has not had a 3.8% rate increase every year.
No.
They might have had a 1, but now some people have had a big rate increase, but the average rates of the GDP has not gone up that much. So council has not those rate increases are not justified, and that justified is different than being needed. They had to be because we were paying the sins of the previous council.
Yeah.
I was part of that previous council, and I was one of the few people who was screaming about it. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is why through both those terms you'll find there's a hell of a lot of votes that are 12 to 1
Oh, okay.
I'm the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very frustrating. But anyway, this gets me onto a very, very important part of what I'm going to stand for, and I have been, but I haven't articulated it well, is that we have to justify our spending. When we're taking money off you, we have to justify it. And colloquially, that is called value for money.
Yeah.
Formally, it's called cost-benefit analysis. Okay, making sure the benefits you get from your spending are greater than the cost. And that's a huge concept that needs to be drilled into all councillors and hopefully into all of our senior leadership team, our government, our general managers. The problem we have, and it's council's beautiful privilege, that we don't have any customers. We have captives. So we charge our rates based on your property value, not based on how much of our services you use or how much of our products you buy. So imagine going to the supermarket, you're telling up all your goods, blah, 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 and you've got your credit card out and you're looking for the thing that tells you what... And she says, excuse me, you got your property valuation with you? Well, what? You got your property valuation with you? So what do you need that for? Oh, because that's how we assess how you'll pay for your groceries.
What?
Yeah, but that's exactly what council does.
Yeah.
You can go to the library, you can go to the rugby games, you can go to the theatres, you can use water, you can drive on our roads.
Yeah.
How are you charged for?
Right.
Based on your property value.
Yeah.
Which is absurd. See, so what happens is the money comes in to council irrespective of the quality of the services we provide. See, council has a really hard job. You know, okay, I don't know if you've ever run a business.
Yeah.
Okay, so I ran a business for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, and that's all, big, small, we all face the same thing. How much money's in the till?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, how much money's in the till? Because all of that money came from people who using their own judgment, voluntarily came in and bought something off you. Yeah.
Or bought a service.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when I put my prices up for photography, when I do photography for someone, and I have a jump in price because all my costs have gone up, right? Yes, I'm passing on those cost increases, but I've got to make sure I'm giving them value for money.
You know the good thing is, at any time your customer said, "No, I'm not going to do any more photos today," or I'm not going to do as many photos today.
Or Joe Bloggs down the street's got a cheaper price.
Yeah, absolutely. But a council, I could not shower, not flush my toilet, not wash my car, not sprinkle my garden.
Yeah.
And you know how much money I'd save?
None.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. So what we have, we've got a system that sorry, jumping around. You know, there was a debate over the gardens whether there should be a fee on the gardens.
Yeah, and that caused quite a scare.
It did. And I tell you what, my sneaking suspicion is that the staff knew. Now, I love the gardens. They are magnificent, and I mean that hand on heart. But I tell you what, I guarantee you, when families are faced with paying, and I know we were not doing it to ratepayers, but say we did do it to ratepayers, okay? Families faced with having, and I've got a family, 4 kids in the city, faced with paying $80, $20 a head to go to the gardens, I'm then forced to make a judgment.
Yeah.
Is the gardens worth $80? And if it's worth $80, is it worth $80 once a year, once a month? And I know what the staff are thinking. People will balk at that.
Yeah.
And they will. And I'm not saying that because
I've done a lot of photographs of the gardens and portraits of the gardens. If I had to pay every time I went up there, and the person I was doing photographs had to pay, then I've got to incorporate that into my cost. I can do that. I can go, you'll take the photographs of the garden, but it's going to cost you next $10 or $20 or whatever it happens to be. Right? I can do that. But for a family, they've especially things that are free, like the parks and gardens and things like this.
When you say free, you mean free to use, but
free to use for everyone, because it's part of the way it's paid to them, are a good way, an easy way for low-income people to get enjoyment out of life by taking the kids along to the park with the garden.
Well, any people do.
Anyone,
Any people.
But in particular, those that can't afford to, say, pay to go to the zoo, for instance, they can go, oh, we'll go and spend a day at the garden, right?
Is it fair that the zoos compete with the picture theatres in town? The zoos are paid for by the ratepayer. The picture theatres, who are people trying to make a living just like everyone else, their customers haven't paid. Is it fair?
Yeah, that's an interesting, and I think that's something people need to look at, and that's part of the process of making an honest decision on who you're going to vote for in this election. Is what parts of these things you stand for? What do you think is fair? And
my slogan, if you don't mind me politicking, is a fair deal for ratepayers.
Okay.
A fair deal for ratepayers.
Yeah. Which I think, to be honest, everyone really wants, because even if you're a renter and you realise that effectively you are a ratepayer, you just pay your rates differently.
Yeah, you are right. Everyone wants a fantastic city with theatres, with museums, with parks, with an event there. Everyone wants it. But you've got, this is where politics gets hard.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'm not a wealthy man, but I'm mid-level, you know?
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people who love theatres, and that's just not saying low-income people don't love the theatre, but it tends to be something that points towards the go. So I'm facing people who, what are you going to charge the theatres for? I said, well, because most people don't use them. You use them, you get the value out of them, but everyone else is paying for based on the value of their property. So you've got to be brave enough to say, look, there is stuff that you just have to have in a city. And that's roads, your three waters, some degree of building regulation and that sort of carry on. And then so that's just absolute core. Otherwise you're living in squalor. You are back to not the mid-ages, the dark ages, you know. So that's it. Then from there on, everything else, as far as I can see, and this is just Garry Mallett's personal view, everything else is discretionary. Now we have to make a decision. Us 12 people plus a mayor, have to make a decision how much of your money we're going to take for the discretionary things. And that's where I become very pig-headed. And I defend, this is me voting for, I'm on team ratepayer, team resident. Okay? If the residents want it, they will pay for it voluntarily, like they pay for the movies, like they pay for dinner out in a restaurant. And they pay for a concert. In a concert hall, that's paid for by the ratepayer. So that's where the difference is. And I don't make a judgment, but I'm not saying this as a skiter, but I'm the only one I think who thinks that to that extreme. Okay, if people call me an extremist, it's because I am absolutely respectful of other people's hard work, the money they've earned, and I shouldn't be taken out of your pocket on a whim. Yeah.
So there are going to be some things that will have to happen too, but councillors need to stop and give a lot more thought about that balance.
Yeah.
And that's a big part, isn't it?
That balance is cost-benefit analysis. Or it's value for money, or it's cost-benefit analysis. There's lots of other, but it's that's the balance. I'm taking money out of a family, or I'm taking money out of a business for something that I think people in society, in our beautiful city, want.
Yeah, and that balance happens in a lot of areas. Like, for instance, the concept of free buses. Right, the idea of free buses, completely free buses. Now, people who use buses think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
People who drive cars think, why should I be paying for the buses, right? But we really need to look at, if you get a lot of people on the buses, does that lower the cost of road maintenance at all? Or does it make no difference? Because if it dramatically lowers the cost of road maintenance by giving people an opportunity to travel on buses a lot more, right? then potentially that's a good, that justifies it.
Here, I've got
But if it doesn't,
I've got a real life example. The Hamilton to Auckland rail.
Oh,
okay?
yeah.
So that's a similar thing to what you're saying, except of getting out of a car into the bus, you're getting out of the car into a train.
Okay. Instead of dealing with driving all the way to Auckland, you sit on your iPad all the way to Auckland reading.
Correct. Now, that was all sold to us like that. And it was all about taking cars off the road and all this sort of carrying. Do you know how much, even if it fills up, even if the trains fill up, do you know what percentage of the cars will take off the road?
I wouldn't have a clue. Yeah.
0.67% of the cars. So less than 1% of the cars that go up there, because it can only take 200, 300 people, okay?
Yeah.
So we're now saying, and I'll get my figures wrong, but they're around this. I think it's about 78, and I guarantee 78 million, but I guarantee that will blow out. Guarantee it will blow out of ratepayers, of Hamilton City ratepayers, Waikato Regional Council ratepayers, and taxpayers' money for the capital cost. So it's about 78 million. And then the operating costs of the train are about $6 million a year. Now that's not all Hamilton City ratepayers. I'm not sure who pays that. I think it's the regional.
Spread out over. I think it's spread out over.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot out there. Yeah. So, but anyway, it's coming out of someone's pocket. Yeah. It's being stopped. It's being involuntarily taken out of someone's pocket every year. Now that, and the wonderful saving of 0.67% of it, I'm not challenging you. I'm just saying clearly that's wrong. Yeah. That is not good value for money. It's a disaster. And it's worse than that, because when you get to Auckland, your business is not going to be at the train station. You're still going to have to hop on a bus or a car or something, because you're going to go into town or going to a business meeting or going to a friend's place. So it just...
Yeah, and see, this is the thing is, you get people strongly on one side or the other of the issue, and yes, it needs to be looked at, because those figures are quite interesting to look at, because as a non-car driver myself, I think it's a brilliant idea, but then I have to sort of think about where is that money coming from, and does that benefit society as a whole over long, in particular the areas concerned with it.
Do you think 0.67% benefits society over the long run?
No, not over the long run, and partly because of the if there's a limit on how many people can be moved, that's where the...
Well, you're always got a limit. It's how many trains have you got? How many carriages have you got? How many people can you... I mean, you can have those Indian trains. You've seen shots of people. People are hanging on like this. They're on the roof. You could do that if you want.
Yeah, can't imagine that ever happening in New Zealand.
The orange cone boys will go berserk.
Yeah, but the interesting thing with it though is that the way we're going, the road to Auckland in particular is going to get busier and busier and busier. And I didn't realise until I went up with someone else for a photo project in Auckland how much of a tedious activity it is to go through the Auckland motorway at the wrong time of day.
Now, yeah, correct.
I even suggest,
how less
is it legal to be able to get out of your car, or out of the car, I'll walk up the motorway, find a cab, get some coffee, come back for us to have coffee while we're waiting.
Stop the car and have a picnic on the roof, yeah. But think about how much better is it going to be when 0.67% of the cars are taken off the road. Do you think you'll even notice it?
Well, yeah,
your trip would be reduced in time by about, I don't know, will be reduced in time. This is not accurate because the number of cars on the road does not mean... Anyway, you know what I mean?
It would make very little difference because you'd have to take...
It would make 0.67% difference.
You would have to take 25% of the cars off the road to make a noticeable difference in the traffic flow to Auckland.
And I don't know. I'm not a traffic engineer. I don't know if it's 10% that makes a big difference, or 50%, or 25%. But I know it's not 0.67%, 0.67%.
Yeah,
I know it's not that.
If going up the motorway, you sat there and looked at it and go, I'll not take off every 10th car or every 100th car. I'll take off every 200th car effectively off the motorway. Is it really going to be noticeable? You know, but
Hey, I'll get a...
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll get a sweet.
cool. Oh, thanks very much for your
No,
time.
sweet. Thanks, Lance.
And good luck on the election. And it's been,
Look,
been
I'm
fun chatting
I was
with
going
you.
to say, I'm happy to do another one if you want to get some more topic, because
Yeah, I might do actually.
strange thing was we didn't... I mean, this was a good one because we sort of talked concepts, principles. I mean, there was some numbers, 0.67 and things like that, but it was good to get the concepts out there,
Yeah.
you know, and then people can decide how far along the road do I want to go.
Because the main thing with this is getting people to stop and think about these things. I'm not saying whether or not I agree or disagree with you on anything. I just want people to be aware of these things. Someone's going to make a comment on this video and strongly disagree with you and be quite blunt about it. Others may agree with you on some issue, but the issue is that to me is most important is for people to, instead of either not voting or just ticking based on personality, I recognise that name on the list, actually stop and think about these things and go, if they agree with most of what you just talked about, then maybe they should vote for you. If they disagree with most of what you talked about, then they shouldn't vote for you.
And if you can,
You're not the right candidate for them.
if you can inform the voters either way,
Yeah.
some people say, yeah, this guy's right on, or no, this guy's a barbarian. You know, I don't know what the response is, but they know why they're voting.
Yeah, and I think the important thing is that you are keeping the ratepayers of Hamilton in mind when you're making your decisions.
The way I phrase it is, I'm on team ratepayer rather than on team council, and my other colleagues will hate hearing it that way. And look,
Surprise.
yeah, and I don't mind. I don't care. I've said it a number of times. So, but it's true. It's what happens. And the sad thing is, or the natural thing is, it happens because we're humans.
Yeah.
And you know that you're a lay person. You don't, as I said, I don't know how to build a road. I don't know how to run a sewerage plant. So I'm relying on you guys to give me information. Bit by bit, you become. And I don't even think the staff realise it.
Yeah.
That they are capturing a council type of thing.
Yeah.
But you do. You just end up relying on them, and you rely on what they say rather than what your citizens are saying. So you'll have people saying, "Oh, the water pressure's terrible out in my showers" or something like that. Go and talk to one of the water engineers. No, that one should be okay. So you tend to believe that guy rather than this guy.
Yeah.
And that's how I distinguish between team council and team ratepayer / president. Anyway, I've got to go.
Thanks very
Thank
much.
you. It's fantastic.
Cool.